Unit 4, Lesson 4, Dividing Negative Fractions. Okay, so first I want to go over the do now because you're going to need this for some of the future examples. So just a reminder, if we have a mixed number, before we can work with that, we need to change it to an improper fraction. So what you do is you take the whole number and you multiply it by the denominator. So negative 3 times 4 will give you negative 12. And then you add the numerator. Actually, to make it a little easier, let's leave the negative sign out for a minute and just bring it over. And so now we only have to deal with the numbers. So let's try that again. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. So our numerator is 14, and we're going to keep the same denominator, which is 4. Okay? All right, let's keep this in mind as we move through our examples. Okay, in our first example, actually, first of all, let me show you the steps. So when you divide fractions, and I know you did this in 5th and 6th grade, but to remind you. So step 1, just as we just spoke about, if we have mixed numbers, we need to change them to improper fractions. So when we look at this example here, we don't have any mixed numbers, so we can skip that step. Next, the rule is to multiply by the reciprocal. If you think back to elementary school, first you learned multiplication and then you learned division, right? They're inverse operations. So, for example, division will undo multiplication. So to keep that in mind, the rule is when you divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. That's kind of a mouthful, so a way to remember that is to simply remember keep, change, flip. So let's see what I mean by that. So we keep the first fraction, 2/5 stays 2/5. You change the division to multiplication. We'll use the dot here. And then you flip. Flip is a fancy word for reciprocal. So you take the 1/2 and you're going to take the reciprocal or the flip of that. So instead of 1/2, we're going to have 2/1. Okay. So if you look what we did, we changed the division problem to a multiplication problem by flipping the second fraction. Okay, lastly, we're just going to solve, right? And just to remind you that you multiply across when you multiply fractions. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 5 times 1 is 5. And now let's just make sure that we have the correct signs. Well, in this example, they're both positive fractions, so our answer is positive 4/5. Okay, so really it's the same as multiplication, but we just have to change the division problem to a multiplication problem. How do we do that? We keep the first fraction, we change division to multiplication, and we flip the second fraction. Okay. And keep in mind, you can only flip the second fraction, only the second one. Okay, example 2. Let's go through the same steps. Well, we don't have any mixed numbers, but we do have a whole number. But we spoke about this earlier in the year and the other day. You can just put a 1 under it, and it's a fraction now, all right? So we're going to keep the negative 2/4, change to multiplication, and flip. So instead of 5/1, it's 1/5. Let's multiply. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and 4 times 5 is 20, all right? So we multiplied across. Now in this example, we have 2/20, which we can simplify, all right? So we have, they're both even, so we know we can divide them both by 2, and we get 1/10. And let's make sure we have our signs correct. Different signs, so it's a negative answer. So our answer is negative 1/10. Okay, 2 more examples. right? Same type of problem as the last one. I just made the first number whole, all right? So let's make it into a fraction first. So we have two fractions. Okay, we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay, now we multiply across, negative 21 over 1. And anytime we have a number over 1, it's just a whole number. Negative 21. Let me just double check that it's negative. Yep, signs are different, so it's a negative answer. Okay. And lastly, so here we have two mixed numbers. All right, so before we can multiply, we have to change them to improper fractions. So let's see, we have 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So 5 over 2, don't forget that negative sign, divided by 1 times 3 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. And I'm going to keep the 3. And I'm going to remember my negative sign. See how I'm going nice and slow? This is a lot of little steps that you can miss. Okay, so I changed my mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now we have to multiply by the reciprocal, or I'm going to put AKA, also known as keep, change, flip. So let's keep, change, flip. I'm going to leave that negative with the numerator so we'll see it more easily. All right, let's multiply across. Negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15. 2 times 4 is 8. And a negative times negative is a positive. Okay, let's see if I can simplify. Well, I can't divide by 2 because 15 is not even. I know that 3 goes into 15, but it doesn't go into 8, so I can't use that. I know that 5 goes into 15, but that doesn't go into 8 evenly. And 15 will go into 15, but 15 will not go into 8. So we're done. Okay, you can leave it like this. Now I know some of you are used to, in elementary school, changing this to a mixed number back to a mixed number. You're welcome to do that if you like, but you don't have to, okay? So either of these answers are okay. And notice they're both positive. All right, so that's it. In short, it's the same thing as multiplication, but first we have to change it to a multiplication problem by multiplying by the reciprocal, right? Or keep the first fraction, change it to multiplication, flip the second one. That's it for now. I'll see you later.